Well, good morning, boys and girls. Come in, sit down. It's so nice to see you. My name is Aunt Shirley, and I am Miss Valerie's favorite aunt. I'm also, if she hasn't told you already, well, I'm pretty smart. It's okay to know that you're smart, as long as you don't go around telling everyone. Now, I am a nuclear physicist and a rocket scientist. That means I know an awful lot about, right, space. And so that's the whole reason that Valerie asked me to come speak with you today. She said that, well, I hope she told you already, but if she didn't, I'll tell you. We're going to be spending the next few months learning some very special patterns. Then these patterns, called the nature growth patterns, that is, we'll be learning those so that when we take off into outer space, that you will understand and recognize the patterns that you're going to see. Now, today we're going to be learning about 3 of the 9 patterns. All 3 of these patterns have something similar because they each start in the middle. But that's where the similarity ends, because each one of those patterns starts to grow in a different way because they have different jobs. So, let's begin with our first pattern. It is called the explosive pattern. It starts in the middle and goes out in all the directions. Now, this might remind you of the sunshine, because that's an explosive pattern, absolutely. Stars are explosive patterns. Flowers, sea anemones, oh my goodness, it's everywhere. When you see have you ever seen the fireworks? Explosive pattern. Here are some artworks that students in Miss Valerie's past classes have done. This should remind you of a snowflake, because a snowflake is basically an explosive pattern, but it has some other ones. Here's a single explosive pattern. And then here she has 1, 2, 3, 4 explosive patterns going off, almost like a grand finale at the fireworks show. Very exciting. And the thing that's so interesting about these patterns, my children, is that everything in nature begins with this pattern. Everything. And I'm not exaggerating. I don't do that very often. Okay, so here's pattern number 1. Starts in the middle, goes out in all the directions, explosive pattern. If you remember fireworks, it'll help you to remember that. Or, oh my goodness, have you ever done a cannonball into the pool? That's an explosive pattern. Oh yes, I remember the days. All right, now here is our second pattern. This pattern also starts in the center, but instead of exploding out in all the directions, this one radiates out, a radial pattern is its name, and it echoes out. Now, both of these artworks are based on the circle echoing out, but the radial pattern can be any shape that repeats itself. It can be circles, here it is in triangles, squares, and it can even change shapes, and that does happen very often in nature. Now, both of these are lovely artworks, oil pastels on this one, and this one they drew with, believe it or not, she drew on black paper with glue. She drew the design, let it dry, and then she used chalk to fill it in. Isn't it beautiful, like a stained glass window? Now I'm showing you these ideas so that when you're doing your art, now this one here, this was paint. I started with white and made it go darker each time. This was another oil crayon. So I'm showing you different ideas so that you can be inspired to come up with your own patterns. Now the final one for today, it also starts in the middle, But instead of going out like an explosive pattern or echoing out like the ripples in the water, this is the spiral pattern. I'm sure you recognize it. Animals use it for their horns, the rams. Plants, when they're beginning to grow and they will open up, they unspiral themselves. This little guy right here, his tail is so long, if it hung down, he'd be saying, "Hey, here's your dinner, boys and girls." But instead he rolls it up. One smart lizard he is. Of course, I'm sure the first place you thought about spirals was with seashells, because the ocean has it beat. The most seashells, the most spiral patterns I've ever seen in the sea. And the water does the spiral pattern too. Because here it is, here's proof. Now this is a cloud. This, my friend, it is a hurricane coming in off of the water. Now, if a spiral pattern is on the land, that's called a tornado. This is a hurricane because it's a spiral pattern that starts over the water, over the ocean. Now, there are also spiral patterns in the water in your house. One, well, turn the sink on in this and watch the water go down. Or let the plug up in the bathtub and watch the water. Or, thank goodness, flush the toilet and watch the spiral take care of our most private business. Oh, silly Shirley, sometimes you get out of control. So, there you have it, boys and girls. For today, our 3 patterns. Explosive pattern starts in the middle, then goes out, kaboom. Radial pattern starts in the middle, echo, echo out. You know bats use that pattern. So do dolphins and whales, echolocation. And from looking at the animals using the radial pattern, we put it on our sonar. That's absolutely correct. So ships and boats, and most importantly, submarines, use the technology that was already created by nature. That, boys and girls, is why we're learning these very important nature patterns. Why? Because once you understand the patterns, my dear friends, then you will understand math, science, and geography, and physics, and calculus, and astronomy. It's all of them. Because here's a little secret. These patterns were already here. We people like me, right, the physicists, the scientists, we created a thing called math, algebra 2, calculus, physics. It just goes on and on. We thought we could find the smallest pattern of something, and we can't, and we will be getting into that at another date. But for today, explosive pattern starts in the middle, then goes out in all the directions. Radial pattern starts in the middle, echo, echo out. And the spiral starts in the middle, walks around itself. There you have it, boys and girls. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. I will be visiting you again. We have a few more patterns, but that will be for next week. So for today, boys and girls, continue to quest for knowledge. And if you can use art to do it, bravo! Oh, even the better to learn with. So, like Miss Valerie says, from my heart to yours, I am also scientifically yours. Goodbye now from Aunt Shirley. Ta-ta! What a fun day this was. Oh, I can't wait to teach them more.